far as, Bourbon Street and I don't know what the hell just happened. The whole thing just started going live just now, but that's all right. We're going to keep going with it anyway. I don't know what the hell happened there. Hey, what's going on, everybody? So we're with Nick O'Reilly from Bourbon Street. I really don't. Rookie mistake. I don't know what the hell's going on right now. It been live for a little while. It said live on my thing. I don't know. But at any rate, for those people that now maybe we're live everywhere else where we weren't live before. I don't know. Maybe something else is going on. So for when I talked to Cheryl about going to Bourbon Street, when I talked to Cheryl about doing, having somebody come on and talk about it, your name was the one that came up. She's like, he no longer works here, but he'd be a great interview, and he would talk very highly of Bourbon Street. So what are you doing now that you're not with Bourbon Street?
Yeah, I've been out of Bourbon for about 8 years. I'm in the insurance world when it comes to my bread and butter, but I'm more in the disc golf world a little bit too, that I've been really focusing on. And we have a club. We run our own PDGA events. We just had a big PDGA event last weekend, actually. So I'm disc golf is my passion amongst my family. You see my wife helping me get on here with you earlier. So kids, that sort of thing. I'm a sports nerd at heart, competitive. You walk in my front room downstairs, there's 3 big screen TVs right there because my wife was upset with me hiding in the basement. So we brought them up there so I can watch my sports and still be a present father and husband, I suppose.
Yeah.
Do you have a first and second and third TV? Like, do you push certain teams to another TV if they're not playing well?
The top, 100%. The top one's the big boy. That's for what's focused. That's going to be, your closer game. You're going to have sound on that. It's easy to switch sound on the bottom too, as well, for commercial breaks and things. So we don't have to miss out, on Sundays, for football. It's a spot to be, March Madness and whatnot just happened. It was popping off in here. I love sports, man.
Great. Yeah, we got Nick O'Reilly on, former Bourbon Street employee. Bourbon Street, actually, I don't know if you know this, Combs, a converted Handy Andy. It was basically the Home Depot of the 80s and I think through the mid 90s or somewhere early 90s.
Yeah, it actually went from Handy Andy to Bourbon Street the year that I graduated high school. And then immediately after I graduated high school, it became the place where I got into the most fights ever. Because back then there wasn't a whole lot of good security at those places, and it just wasn't, it was more of just a dance club. The sports bar really wasn't what it is now. And a lot of people went there to do a lot of stupid stuff at the time, but now it's a great place to be. I mean, that place is massive. I the first time I walked in there, the day after Thanksgiving, I went there, and that was the first time I threw with Southside Bags. There was actually a pro wrestling event going on in the back room. Like, I walked to go to the bathroom, and when I walked back there was like 15 guys and a couple of girls in wrestling tights, and I'm like, what the hell did I just walk into? Right? So I'm like, man, I know there was crazy shit going on here at Bourbon Street, but then I look and I look in the next room, and there's this guy flying across the ring landing on another guy. It's crazy how big that place is.
Yeah, they do everything there. I mean, in any night you can be there, for country line dancing to a nightclub with dudes spinning and the video walls everywhere, to an 80s cover band, to bags. I had a disc golf putting league there on Wednesdays before the bags switched from Thursdays to Wednesdays. The bocce ball on Tuesdays if you're an old timer and you like doing that. Like, it's something for everyone at any point, for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. So Thursday night, that's going to be the night. What can people expect to see when they come out to the bar? Not only just for the show, but what can they expect, from an atmosphere going on during the draft?
Well, what I assume first off is a good time brought to by you guys. I think you guys are going to do a great job. Come in, host, and get some laps going. but it's a place where people are going to be dialed in, and it's a place where it's not only just Bears fans coming either. Like, believe it or not, and again, not to beat the horse, but you saw my wife earlier. She's a big Packer fan, unfortunately.
Oh God, what the hell?
And there's a lot of Packer fans that actually, you know, are rolling around the South Side for some reason, and the draws there too, you know. So there's this cool rivalry that happens, and there's enough pockets within the establishment to where you can really, you know, get your fandom and get your, you know, shit talking as well and do your thing, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Do I love shit talking, and I'm telling you right now, man. If I married a Packers fan, that, like, every day would just be a shit talk fest with me. I would just talk shit to my wife all day long, more than I already do now.
Yeah, she'd hate it if I said it, but it's not like she's paying attention really anyway. So she's more. It's on paper.
Gotcha. All right, I gotcha.
She's giving me the middle finger from the bathroom right now.
That's great. That is awesome. So you are a Bears fan, but you also told me that you got some ties with the Steelers due to some fantasy football.
Yeah, early fantasy stuff. My buddies all did it. I never did. They were doing it for a hot minute, like on Excel spreadsheets, you know, that sort of thing before it became really popular. And just wanted to be part of the crew. I started hopping into it, and that's kind of where I cut my chops and ended up with a bunch of Steelers early on my teams. And yeah, me and a couple of my good friends ended up just jumping on that bandwagon, and that was my AFC team, I guess.
So give us the scoop. Where are the Steelers going in this draft? It's got to be quarterback, right? They're looking at quarterback in this draft.
I don't know. I think that's going to depend on what's sitting there as well. I mean, I hope so. I fucking hate watching Mitch Trubisky start again.
It's gotta suck for you. You had to watch him with the Bears. Now you watch him with your other team.
It's the worst, dude. It's the absolute worst, man. I'm living in this weird snake eating its own tail situation that I just am not a fan of. But I don't know. I don't know. I think the Steelers want what's his name, Jalen Carter, right? And I think if he's going to be there when the Bears, I don't think he's going to be there when the Bears have a shot at 9. But if he is, I think that's where we dump down, and maybe the Steelers get that way. Is it likely? No, but I don't know. I'm kind of crossing my fingers in the fact that it could have my cake and eat it too, to where both my teams can make a move for what they want type deal.
Yeah, for me, I think the Steelers making a trade up. I think Will Levis needs to be their guy. If they're going to trade up to 9, I think that's where they go. I think they go with Will Levis. What about you, Fitz?
I mean, it depends if he's there. I mean, there's a lot of people salivating for him. He might, I mean, who knows? He might go 1. I mean, you never know. Maybe Richardson. I mean, they're at 9, possibly. What I was going to ask, Nick, was what about the trade between the Steelers and the Bears during the season? Chase Claypool. I mean, I don't know if I can judge him yet.
I love it.
Fields was hurt, for a while, and then Claypool was hurt. So I don't think he really got a good shake here. We're gonna wait till next season to see what happens. But what'd you like about that trade?
I like Claypool a lot. I think he's a strong, you know, like he's a super strong, you know, second receiver as far as I'm concerned. I think in Bears past, we'd have been lucky to have him as number 1 wideout, to be completely honest, you know. But we got DJ Moore coming in now, and I think Chase really has a good lane to totally thrive in. And with all these picks we have coming now too, and that combined with it, like we can get our quarterback some time for him to develop there, and we can let Chase get downfield actually, then yeah, I'm fucking all in on it, honestly.
Quarterback finally has some help for the Chicago Bears for the first time since 1985.
It's also a weird time in my life to where the Steelers have always been the team that's probably going to, for like the majority of my life anyway, of me being a fan, to they're the ones that actually have higher potential to do better. So I always used to say, like, if the Steelers and the Bears are going to play each other during the regular season, well, whoever has more potential to win the Super Bowl, that's who I want. Whoever's going to make the playoffs, that's who I'm rooting for. If it's ever in the Super Bowl, I'm going heavy Bears. But that being said, like, this being a time to where it seems like the Steelers are kind of on their way down a little bit with what's been happening, and the Bears are, as far as I'm concerned, at an almost all-time high for my lifetime in fandom, that I'm like, okay, sell the farm, Steelers, give it to the Bears, and let's fucking do this, man.
See, that's what I like. Me as a Bears fan or as a Chicago sports fan, period, it drives me like my guy Michael Buckheiser, who I do the Man Hour show with. He is a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs, which is where he's from, but he's also a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. He's also a fan of the Green Bay Packers. He's also a fan of, I believe it is the Carolina Panthers and the Detroit Lions. And I'm like, dude, how many fucking teams do you get to sit through and just wait for one of them to be good and be like, all right, I like them. All right, they're not good this year. Now I'm a fan. Like, I don't understand how and I'm sitting here like a dope being like, nope, just the Bears. Nope, just the Cubs.
I may have blacked out on half the teams you were talking about your homie with, though, too. But most of those teams seem like they suck nowadays, anyway. So it doesn't
minus
seem
the
like
Chiefs.
Yeah. Chiefs, obviously,
yeah. So it's one of those things where, as a Chicago sports fan, it's been tough. It's been tough growing up as a Chicago sports fan. It's been tough sledding. We've had a couple of little dynasties with the Bulls, and then we had a little one with the Blackhawks. Cubs and White Sox both made us cheer once or twice, and the Bears have been really hard pressed. And I do think they're in a good direction. I do like the way that they're going with Ryan Poles. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think there's a way they can screw up this draft. Do you?
I hate that you just said that out loud and you put that out there. That's insane that you would just put that in the ethos, to be honest, because I think if there's anything that we say there's not a possibility, it would be the Bears fucking up a draft. So, again, at least in my fandom, in my lifetime, I'm 38, I'll be 39 in August. Like,
yeah.
I can't claim 85 Bears, 06 was what it was. Like there's no blind faith that is instilled in me when it comes to the Chicago Bears.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think there's a way that they can fuck it up. But if they do draft at number 9, like the tight end from the University of Idaho, then you can call me up and then we can have this conversation about how I jinxed it.
Hey, man, I have a buddy who's like one of the biggest jinxes in the world, and we joke about it all the time. I have another buddy who I'm on a high school text thread with him that he fades every single thing that he gives us, and we've just been asking him not to say anything about the draft.
Yeah,
just shut up, just watch it, just take it in. Do not jinx this thing, and let's just. We need to them polls, right? I mean, polls seems like it's all right?
No, it does.
He's moving those chess pieces. It really does. It seems like he's got it together. But...
I think we finally have our guy in Chicago. I really do.
I hope so.
I will say that the next time we go to Bags for Southside Bags at Bourbon Street on Wednesday night, I need you to bring your friend with you, because Johnny Torres always makes me a partner with either, somebody really good, and then I have to go up and throw up against a pro, and every time I end up throwing up against a pro. So what I want you to do is have your buddy come down here and tell him, tell the pro, hey, you're about to kill this guy, so he could jinx him. Maybe I could win a game.
Dude, are you familiar with like the Eye of Sauron from Lord of the Rings?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So that's the strength level of this guy's jinx.
Oh, God.
Is that literally every time he sends anything he likes, it's just a bunch of gifs of the Eye of Sauron, and then everybody fucking fading it.
Oh, my God.
Children are going to school off of this guy's wholehearted jinxness.
That's
Shout out
hilarious.
Those guys, if you watch this, he's my jinx.
That's hilarious. All right, Nick. Well, we appreciate it, man. We appreciate you coming on, talking about a little bit of Bourbon Street. Anybody you want to shout out before we let you go?
Yeah, shout out Circle One Disc Golf. Shout out Circle One DGC on Facebook, Circle One DGC on Instagram, Circle One Disc Golf Shop on Facebook too. We're out in Mokina, South Suburbs, doing our thing. We run PDGA sanctioned events. Come get at us for that. And yeah, watch you guys, man. I hope my friends come and check your shit out too. I don't think I got anything going on Thursday, so maybe I can stop up at Bourbon Street and shake your hand, man.
All right, man. Sounds good. We'll see you then. Appreciate you.
Right.
Have a good one. All right, so that was Nick O'Reilly, former employee of Bourbon Street. We got to bump up a little bit of Bourbon Street. We will be there Thursday night for round 1 of the NFL draft. Going to be live, going to be lit. I know my guy Johnny's going to be there. I'm going to try and throw his ass off a stage too. We'll see if we can get that going. But the Bears coming up for this draft, man. I know you think, Nick thinks that I jinxed it, but I really don't think that there's a way they could screw this up. No matter which way they go, whether it's a defensive end, whether it's an offensive lineman, whether it's a wide receiver, I'm not going to you know me. I want a wide receiver. Why are you putting your head in your hand?
God, shut up. Kevin White was a sure thing. And he got injured for 3 years straight. I mean, they could get Quentin Johnson. He could get anybody. They could get Jalen Carter. He could be for 3 years straight. They can get Paris Johnson. Oh, yeah, he looks like a mountain of a man. He's going to be a great tackle.
Jalen Carter's going to be in prison before the freaking off-season workouts start. Maybe. All right. So we have the Southside Bags Star of the Week segment coming on here. A little bit of feedback here. I don't know what's going on there, but we have a Southside Bags Star of the Week. It is going to be Jay Rubin. Man, I got to tell you, I am very excited for this. He is the guy. I say it all the time when anybody says, hey, Jay Rubin, word association for me is the GOAT. I really enjoy watching this guy throw some bags, but I'm going to bring on Johnny Torres, our guy over at Southside Bags. Did you get kicked out of the house?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Driver for a bank robbery.
I'm at a remote location. Today, but let me just say, I like the angry fits here tonight.
All right,
I'm digging it.
Let's rob a bank. No,
I don't like the fact that both of you guys are wearing fucking Packers colors, though.
I am wearing Notre Dame colors, sir.
This is actually a Irish soccer team. Got this from my older brother John, and I've been watching a lot of Ted Lasso. I don't know if anybody else watches it. But, spoiler alert: this past week on the show, you get to say that the Bears are going to have a great draft when they haven't had a great draft since they drafted Sayers and fucking Butkus. But I can't talk about Ted Lasso.
I didn't say you couldn't talk about Ted Lasso. My groin came from the fact that you're wearing an Irish soccer team's jersey.
And he has an English soccer team in it. But anyway,
I can assure you, Fitz, nobody watches Ted Lasso. So
nobody watches soccer either.
Americans. It's won Emmys, yes. And he uses Tex Winter's triangle offense to position his soccer team in the episode. So that's where I'm coming from.
I have a request. I have a request to get fucking angry Fitz every weekend. I love this guy.
All right.
How many Chulis are you in?
I have no clue. I'm actually 2 weeks without any alcohol. That's probably why I'm angry.
That's probably why he's angry. That and the White Sox are the two reasons why he's angry right now.
Yeah, that's.
Shut up.
So Johnny, we've got Southside Bags Star of the Week, our normal segment here. Let the fans know who we've got coming on, man. I'm pumped up for this.
Man, we got the homie Jay Rubin coming up next. Possibly the best comeback in ACL history. They were down big. They were down really big. They came back to win world doubles. Him and Jordan Power. Man,
I know.
Let's get him on. Jay Rubin, guys.
What's going on, Jay? Good, man. We're doing good.
Good. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. Thanks
All
for
right,
waiting.
Jace.
I saw you waiting
So-
backstage for a little bit. Thanks for waiting.
Yeah.
Oh, no worries. I got a couple sips in so I could catch up.
All right.
So Johnny with the introduction, and I'm gonna get right to it because I wanted to get into this. I watched the match. I've watched it actually a couple times now on YouTube. The doubles world championship. You're up against Mark Richard and his partner, the number 1 ranked player in the world. The guy's a stud. I've watched him throw at Bourbon Street. I've seen the guy throw on ESPN. And you guys fall down 20-2. And you come back and win this match. And I'm telling you, when your partner says to Mark Richards after he misses one shot, he goes, he might be the number 1 player in the world, but he still gets nervous. You could kind of see the face of Mark Richards say, damn, I got to hit this one now. And it almost like it put pressure on Richards to hit that next shot, and he missed it. What is going through your head during all of this?
So Mark had AirPods in, so I don't think it's come out now, but at the time I didn't think he heard him unless he turned the volume down or was in between songs or anything like that. So I didn't think it would really mess with him. I think if anything, the bag that he put off the back of the board and realized we slowly started to come back and maybe put a little pressure on himself to put that bag in to give up 3 versus, putting it on the board and giving up 5 to really narrow the gap. I think that probably got to him more than anything because, he's been there before. He was the number 1 player in the world last year. So he understood that moment, maybe just a little bit of lack of concentration, if anything. But nonetheless, he missed the shot. Jordan sees the opportunity in the moment. And then I just had to do what I had to do on my end to finish it off.
So that was kind of the humble way of putting it. You went out there and you guys both, you and your partner was, I'm sorry, your partner's name again?
Jordan Power.
Jordan Power. You and Jordan were lights out after falling down 20-2. Like, you guys were ridiculous. And you went out there and you laid the smackdown on the number 1 player in the world, man. Now, when people talk about you, I say it all the time. I asked Johnny Torres, I've said it to him a couple times at Bourbon. When people talk about Jay Rubin and throwing backs, I call you the GOAT. Because I've watched you throw, and you hit some shots that I just think are ridiculous. I don't think anybody can match it. Does that put too much pressure on you when people start talking to you about you like that? Do you feel any sense of pressure when people start talking you up in your game?
No, because, I have the work ethic of a champion, right? So I throw in my house every day for an hour. I work on the shots that you see on national television, right? So I got a sliver of a bag that I hit 5 or 6 in a row in that world championship game. I've simulated that shot thousands of times in my house, chasing bag after bag after bag, and understood what I needed to do to hit that type of shot. So for me, it just comes down to my work ethic. I try not to put too much pressure on myself. I want to be loose and relaxed so that way I can get the best results possible.
Did you say slip shot or what kind of shot was it? If you could just back
it
up.
was like an airmail drag. So if I got like a sliver of a bag that's like hanging over the edge of the hole, I'll work, whether it takes me 1 bag or it takes me 10 bags. I'm going to figure out what it's going to take to get that sliver of the bag on an airmail to drag it back in. So in my head, I just have all this data, right, with the bags that I use.
Right.
So when I'm in that moment, I'm like, all right, this is the shot. I got 3 bags left. I know it's going to take 2 to work back. So I have to now execute.
Yeah. Is there any other scenarios that you do, or you're not going to tell us?
No, I work on every scenario possible, right? I mean, even if a bag appears out of play on the opposite side of the board, like I'm going to figure out a way I can work that bag back. I may not execute it at a high percentage, but I'm going to still figure out, all right, if you're on TV and you have to hit that shot, what are you going to do? So my very first pro event I was ever in 5 years ago, there was literally a bag hanging on the front part of the board, probably about that far up the board. I had to hit the bag in my hand with the bag on the board to push it all in for a wash. I hit that shot. So you just never know when you're going to need to hit certain shots. So I just practice everything and just figure out how I'm going to get bags in the hole if they're out of play.
What is your bag of choice? Do you like a slick bag or do you like a slower bag?
Yeah, I like a slower, more controlled bag. The problem that I always had with slicker bags, especially on faster boards, is the ability to lay down a block or play strategic matches if I needed to, especially in the round limited games for like the shootout series where it's 10 or 12 rounds. You know, if you find yourself down a couple points and you got a slick bag, it's going to be a lot harder to control and lay that block down versus using something that's more controlled where you're going to have the ability to do it and create some chaos to possibly get some points back in your favor.
Have you always been a guy who can just hit these shots? Like you just started playing cornhole and you can hit shots out of nowhere, or were you one of those guys who really had to work at being good?
No, I had to work at it. It was just like anything, right? I mean, there was a certain skill set that probably came natural. You know, I was a basketball player, so I was a great shot. So I understood muscle memory. So that came easy, but then it was just everything else and putting yourself into a million different scenarios, especially in tournament play, because in practice play, yeah, you can work on it. But in a real game scenario, when there is pressure or money on the line or whatever it may be, that's a different feel that you really can't simulate. So over the course of the last 5 years, you know, I've tried to fine tune my game, you know, so it's really refined and, you know, I can play at a high level.
Does anybody ever tell you like, oh, that was a lucky shot? And you're like, no, I practice that shit, man.
You know what? You do hear it, but to be honest with you, you do need luck just with any sport, right? You got to have the ball bounce your way. You need a little bit of luck on your side. You got to catch some breaks throughout the course of the tournament, but I'd rather be lucky than not lucky at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. Whether lucky or good, as long as it goes in the hole, that's all that matters.
That's exactly it. It doesn't matter what it looks like or how it happened. As long as it goes in, that's all I care about.
Gotcha. So we like to get people in a little bit of trouble on this show, and I'm sure that you've heard it. We like to have our guests call somebody out, somebody who they're going to go to the next tournament, somebody they're going to see, and somebody whose money they're going to take. If you had to call out one player on the ACL tour, I mean, don't call out me or Fitz because that's just not fair. Call out one guy on the ACL tour. Whose money are you taking one-on-one?
I'm going after my buddy Nico Morales. He's a great friend of mine. I was up 14-4 against him at the last national, and I caught some breaks, and Nico got hot and ultimately came back and beat me, even with, you know, I had a 10-point lead. But he knows as well as I do when he has to play a pissed off Jay, like I elevate my game. Like I wish I could play with that mental state every single match because I think I would be unbeatable, but I just haven't figured out how to wire myself like that. But Nico Morales, I'm coming for you.
There you go,
wow.
Nico Morales.
Friend of the show.
I love him. He's a great friend of
like
mine.
it.
But, you know, on the boards, you know, we put the friendships aside and, you know, it's business at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see it all the time in sports like MMA and boxing, and you know, even throughout other sports, you see guys who are friends, but once they get on the field or once they get in the ring, it's a completely different scenario.
Absolutely.
So, speaking of Nico just changed partners in for doubles. He's now running with can't remember. Yes, and so. Him and Tom have both been on the show. I've talked with both of them at Bourbon Street. What is it like for players on the ACL tour at that level to switch partners? We're about, what, a quarter of the way through the season at this point, right?
Yeah, well, 20% because you got the World Championships. Yeah, but it's difficult because, right, you built up going into the season, right? You're off season playing, practicing, doing various tournaments with your partner. And then after the first main event, you realize that you feel it's best for you to make a switch. You know, Nico got lucky that he had arguably one of the best players in the world at this moment available and in the same scenario as him. You know, on the downside, Tom and Derek King, who is Devin's partner, are on the back burner because I don't know if they both saw it coming or not. I don't know those conversations that were had, but that really puts them into a tough situation, you know, how they're going to finish out the remainder of the year because they may not have, you know, the player that they want or could gel with, you know, where they could have a successful season.
Does that create chatter amongst players when you see stuff like that happen? Does that create chatter? Will players use that to their advantage when it comes to shit talking coming, you know, in the upcoming tournaments?
I haven't seen it, but I know there was chatter going on before it was publicly released. You know, when we go out to Erie, Pennsylvania next month, it'll be the first time these guys are going to shoot with different players. So I won't know until then, to be honest with you. A lot of people, you know, are very humble and they don't want to, you know, bring up things like that or stir up any controversy. But if somebody feels like they got an advantage by, you know, saying something, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, see, I'm that guy, man. Like, I don't when it comes to shit talking, I don't pull no punches. I don't take offense to a whole lot of things, so I don't have a filter when it comes to a lot of things. So there's, it would definitely be in play if I was playing at that level for sure. So Fitz has a question that he asks every week. Fitz, let's ask Jay Rubin this question.
Air Rubin, well. First of all, did you see the movie Air yet? I want to see that movie. And second part of the question, you said you had a sip or two before you came on. Performance enhancing drugs and bean bags. How many drinks does an Air Rubin take to play better? And then how many drinks does it kind of go downhill? For me, with scotch, it's like maybe 3. I played a game with Johnny Torres where I was pretty good in the first game. By the time I got into the last game, not so good, and we lost. So where does that line of demarcation come? Does it help? Does it not help you? How do you
know what? When I first started playing, I never really drank until I got further into the tournament because I wanted to make sure that I was as level-headed and clear-minded as possible. I didn't want the reason to lose at that level because I consumed too much, right? But as the seasons have progressed, I enjoy having, through a course of a bracket, 3 or 4, one every other game or so, something along those lines, just to keep me loose, relaxed. I don't get, tight or anything like that. But that's probably my sweet spot, is just having a couple. But when we won the world title, I gave Stephanie and Nico $100, and I said, hey, anytime I put my hands up, can you guys give me a beer, buy yourselves a round? And I probably had 3 or 4 during that broadcast as well, but I try not to overdo it.
Do you ever have scenarios at home for that where you have like a 6-pack and then you try to throw Is that one of your scenarios?
There's been tournaments where I've had a little bit too much fun. Me or Nico or a plethora of other guys will win like a local event, and then we'll get into singles, and it's like, oh shit, like this just hit me, and now I got to play 100+ rounds, and now I'm going back to guzzling water, hoping to get right back where I needed to be.
Are you a sports guy in any, like, are you a baseball guy, a football guy, basketball guy, or all around sports? What's your sport of choice after cornhole?
I was a big basketball fan, 90s, early 2000s. I've gravitated away from the game now. I just think it's just an all-star game every single night. Every team's putting up 120 to 130, and it's kind of boring to watch to me. I find myself watching more baseball now. Football I do enjoy watching, but I think personally that sports are kind of predetermined or rigged. There's too much money exchanging hands in Vegas. So yes. I've always been a little bit of a conspiracy theorist when it's come to stuff like that. It just makes it a tougher watch, but I still enjoy watching everything, especially in the postseason.
I am one of those guys who, I've done this on the Man Hour show where I've gone in depth for probably about 20 minutes about how I think Vegas has a huge hand in all sports, and I don't think that the sports are rigged, because I don't think you can get the athletes to come to that side of things just because there's too much money in it for them on the other side of it. But I do think that if you have a handful of referees, making phantom holding calls or not making holding calls at certain spots in the game, especially in tight games, I think that you can influence the outcome. So I really do believe that. Do you think that we'll ever come to a point where I could log into my BetStamp app and I can look it up and I can find ACL events to bet on.
Yeah, at some point. So, I mean, we've been partnered with DraftKings, Prize Picks now this year, where you can pick, various players to win different matches, or, over under, they're going to make 17 out of the 24 bags they make, things like that. It's going to trend that direction where it's going to be on every platform. I just do not know how soon it'll be. It could be in the next 2 years. It could be in the next 5 years or 10 years, but it'll definitely be coming.
Do you ever have a fear of, like we just talked about, Vegas maybe having an influence on other sports like the NBA, NFL? Do you ever fear like that could become a thing with sport? Because I think it's highly influential in boxing. I think boxing is probably the most rigged sport that we have, and I think it's easier because you're talking about a single person competition, which is a lot what cornhole is as well. Do you feel like that could become a problem in an industry like that when there could be a hell of a lot more money to be made on the side?
Yeah, that's a good question. But a lot of these players have a ton of pride, and there's ramifications that do come with getting caught, and bans, and lifetime bans at that, right, from playing the sport. So I don't know if anybody's really going to do that, for $100,000, right, where they could make a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in their career earnings, if they're that top level player.
Right.
But it's happened, in every single sport. It probably will happen in cornhole one day. Probably not anytime soon. Probably something that'll happen in the future, but hopefully not.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So we're gonna bring on our guy Johnny Torres back. Before we let you go, we always let Johnny come on and ask a couple questions. Usually they're stupid questions, but he usually comes on and asks a couple questions. Johnny, are you in a bar?
I'm at shortstops.
No.
That explains
All right.
background noise.
Yeah, it is pretty loud there.
Upset?
It is pretty, because I didn't get an invite.
Yeah.
Shit, I thought it wasn't. Let me walk away. Hold on.
Sick invite, dude.
Yeah.
Go do it from the shitter, buddy.
Jay,
All right,
did you get an invite to go meet him at shortstops?
So during the actual work week, it's hard to get out. I got 2 children, so I spend a lot of time with my kids Monday through Friday. So I'm not always able to come out like I once was able to, but if I'm able to get out and I'm kid free for the night, I try to make my rounds and stop at various places.
I gotcha. Johnny, man, you sound like you were at a carnival.
How's it sound now?
It still sounds like you're at a carnival, but you got any questions for Jay Rubin before we let him go?
Yeah. So with the MCL coming out, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that Major Cornhole League coming on. What is your perspective on that?
Uh-oh. Then we lost him.
No one wants to talk about the MCL.
See, he didn't want you said MCL, and all of a sudden he went blank. All of a sudden he's gone. Looks like we lost Jay Rubin here.
No, he's there. He's just on mute.
No, he's gone. I don't know what happened there, but we lost Jay Rubin. But I don't know how much of that interview you got to hear, Johnny, man. But that was a lot of good stuff. We got to go get a lot of good stuff from Jay Rubin. So
yeah, I was there all the time. So
yeah,
good shit, man. I'm looking forward to that Nico Morales call out that he did. So
yeah. Looks like we got Jay back. You got us, Jay?
Jay, can you hear us? You're on mute.
No, looks like we lost him again.
No, he's there. There he is.
Sorry, somebody tried FaceTiming me and it just locked up my phone. So I apologize.
Johnny, stop trying to FaceTime him.
No. So the question was, what's your take on the MCL coming up shortly? That's a question that we asked our former guest, Josh Keck. He said he was not knowledgeable of what's going on.
Yeah.
I just think he didn't want to touch base on that. But what's your take on that? I'd like to know what.
Honestly, I don't know really anything about it. I don't follow it. I actually lost a sponsor this current week over the MCL. They didn't want to be tied, or the ACL didn't want them to be tied to both the ACL and the MCL. And my sponsor said, I'm not going to have anybody that's going to sit here and attempt to tell us who we're going to partner with, right? And our sponsored players and such like that. So I recently was affected and lost my sponsorship as a result. But in regards to the organization, I can't tell you really anything about it. I don't follow it closely. I haven't talked to anybody about it. So anything I'd be saying would be unknowledgeable.
So you mentioned that you lost the sponsor. Do you mind sharing what sponsor it was?
Yeah, the sponsor was Bag Life. They were working on apparel and merchandise, and then they do like co-branding with different bags and manufacturers and things of that nature. So they had a spot on my jersey. I probably got to have that removed at some point during the course of the year now, because the ACL isn't affiliated with them. So, yeah, it affected me personally.
I know a podcast logo you could throw on that jersey if you like.
If you pick up the other half of what they were offering, we can make that happen.
Fitzy has it.
I'll circle back to that, Jay. I might be interested in that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk offline.
But one thing that I do remember when I met you, I used to bring my daughters around for Man Cave Monday. You had said, "Hey, bring them over to my house. Well, I'll train them for you." Where do we stand with that offer?
Training is always available. You just got to catch me on the weekends where I'm not traveling or playing tournaments, or during the summertime when it's nice outside and it's light out until 8:30, 9 o'clock, and you can throw outside in the driveway or even at a park where it's lit up. By all means, sir.
Sure, I'm sure we could accommodate you. We could get an Uber over to my house and we can make it happen.
Johnny's gonna adopt me so I could be one of his kids that you train.
I can see the similarities. You guys look a lot alike.
Absolutely. You're obviously sponsored by Tyne Bags. I'm a big Tyne fan myself. I throw Thrashers. I throw Venoms.
Yep.
Is there any other bag that you would most likely throw? I'm sure you have certain restrictions to talk about it, but if you could throw any other bag besides your Tyne Thrashers, what would you throw?
Yeah, so I throw Titan Thrashers. I've thrown Venom, and I've thrown their carpet bag Prowlers. If there was another company or bag manufacturer and style bag, something comparable to what I'm used to throwing, I would say, the Lucky Bag, the Surefire, or the BG Viking would be, two bags that I would be very comfortable with. I actually won a pro shootout using Surefires after my contract had expired with another company. But those two I'd be really familiar with and feel comfortable with.
Wow, isn't that a shocker? Those are actually my other go-to bags, the Surefires and the BG Vikings. One more question that Fitz and Combs failed to ask you. Cubs or Sox?
I'm a diehard Cubs fan. I grew up at Kedzie and Addison. I was 3 miles away from Wrigley Field. My grandparents had season tickets when I was a child, right next to where Harry Carey was and Steve Stone up in the booth.
Yes.
I've been a diehard Cub fan my whole life.
Attaboy. No Sox fans here, buddy.
Wow. All right, you had mentioned Jay that you have a very busy schedule. I'm sure you do. The invitation stands. You're always welcome to come out to Shortstops or to Bourbon Street. We're looking forward to you coming out and having a matchup with Nico Morales.
Absolutely, we'll make it happen. We'll find a day I'm available, and we'll get Nico on the same day.
All right.
We'll put on a show and maybe live stream it or something.
I can tell you right now, Jay, here's what's going to happen. You show up. You and Nico are going to end up being partners on this random draw, and I'm going to end up drawing against you guys in the first round. That's exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to end up with some scab like Johnny Torres on my team or something.
Look, if it is me and Nico, I will speak for Nico right now. Me and Nico will throw airmails only in that tournament.
That doesn't help me at all.
You got a better chance of us not putting one in the hole, though. That increases your odds. It went from 0.009 to like maybe 4.5.
So now instead of losing 21-0, I'll lose 21-3. Great.
Yeah. I mean, a little confidence booster for yourself. A little
perfect. That's awesome. Do you want to shout anybody out before we let you go?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my bag sponsor this year, Titan Bags. They've been great to me. They've taken me in. They've treated me like family. They've done a lot for me, so I really want to send them a big thank you and shout out. If anybody wants to purchase any bags, you can go directly to their website at titanbags.com, or you can message me and use coupon code AirRubin21 to save yourself a few bucks.
Oh, awesome. I'm definitely using that on my next order.
So I think it's kind of obvious why they call you Air Rubin, but Fitz had asked the question earlier. Why do they call you Air Rubin?
So it's actually not for the reason most people think. So I did a podcast with a bunch of buddies out on the East Coast, and we sit on there for an hour or two, just, shooting the shit like we are now, right? And I grew up idolizing Michael Jordan. Like, I have that mentality. I have that level of focus. Like, I emulated what he was as a basketball player, and I love that killer instinct he had about him. And we were doing a podcast, and people were trying to come up with like a nickname for me. And all of a sudden, during middle of the conversation, like, boom, I got it, Air Rubin. And I was like, oh shit, that could stick, right?
Yeah.
And now it's caught on, right? People now, they know me for my airmail now, but it never really originated from that. It originated from the similarities of me and Michael Jordan and kind of putting the two together.
One of the things I'm sorry, I know we're over time here, but one of the things that you have been doing in the past is you've been showcasing a lot of trick shots, right? And so, where can people find you? What are your handles? Mind sharing your handles?
Yeah, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Air Rubin. Facebook, I'm under J Rubin. I'm maxed out with followers. I got to figure out how to turn that page into it being wide open where I can get as many followers as possible. But you can find me there. I try to post clips on a daily basis, whether it's a practice routine or me just throwing 100 bags in a row, or just trying to put out like motivational type things to inspire people to bring out the greatness within themselves.
That's awesome. Maxed out on followers. I wish we had that problem, Fitz.
Yeah. We'll see.
All right, Jay, man. We appreciate you coming on. Thank you for giving us some of your time. We hope to hear from you again soon. We hope to see you up at Bourbon Street a little bit soon. And if you're not doing anything on Thursday, man, I know a good podcast is going to be up there for night one of the NFL draft. So come get a couple drinks on me.
Yeah, you know what? I might take you up on that because I don't have my kids on Thursday nights throughout the summer because of my travel schedule. So this Thursday, I think, is going to be free. But if it is, I might make a stop up.
All right, man. Sounds good. Appreciate you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Later.
Thanks, Jay.
Bye.
All right, so that was Jay Rubin. Johnny Torres is at some sort of carnival here on the South Side. So Johnny, man, we appreciate you, but you are, dude. We'll talk with you later, Johnny. Appreciate you.
See you, bud.
So that's Johnny Torres, who is at the middle school carnival here on the South Side. But no, that was a great interview, man. Great interview with Jay Rubin.
Talking about how he plans his shots and all that.
Yeah. No, it was great. Great. So, speaking of things that are great, we got Fitz Gibberish. You ready?
I'm ready. At least somewhat ready this week to start Fitz Gibberish.
Let me throw on your palm picture. Hold on.
Oh, boy. Hello, my friends. It's another edition of Fitz Gibberish, a diatribe, a conspiracy, and an island in the middle of unapologetic and sometimes inaccurate sports talk. I have a title for this one. How Mr. Hitachi taught me to love sports enough to break my heart. To properly frame this gibberish, we have to go all the way back to 1991. Hit movie that year, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Which allowed Arnold Schwarzenegger to build up enough cachet to sleep with his housekeeper, fathering a child with her who looked a lot like him. He's walking around his house with someone who looks like this, right under his wife's nose. Zeke Cavaricci pants. Made men everywhere look like prepubescent girls.
My God.
Look at those. That was a fad. The Twins won the World Series. The Pittsburgh Penguins won the Stanley Cup. Michael Jordan beat the tar out of Magic Johnson's Lakers, while Johnson was poised to beat the tar out of HIV. And George H.W. Bush Sr. would soon reach a ceasefire in the Persian Gulf War. Growing up in the Fist house, though, war for attention was just beginning. To say we talked over each other like Charlie Sheen in the middle of a Coke binge is to seriously overestimate the power of Coke and the tiger blood raging inside Sheehan. Yes, we gnawed at the bone that was our parents and our own attention down to the marrow. But on this Monday night, after a healthy dose of Roseanne, Star Trek The Next Generation, and maybe some Family Feud, our anger would turn to Mr. Hitachi. The man had taught us so much and did not deserve it. He had shown us first kisses, broken hearts, trampled dreams, the stars in space, Supermen flying high enough just to fall to the ground. Yes, if you didn't see it all right when Combs shared it, Mr. Hitachi was a 24 to 27 inch screen TV, give or take. And he might as well have been 100. He was gigantic to us. The pictures, shapes, flashes of colors mesmerized us and fed our very dreams, especially since our other two TVs were the same size combined. Hard to imagine these days with walls, hands, laps littered with flat screen TVs. I don't know, maybe a couple of other things as well. The image that Mr. Hitachi would send us on that night in 1981 to our shame and fury was the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football against the New York City Jets. You can bump in here, Combs, if you remember this game, but some of the remnants of the 85 Bears were still there. Van Horn, Thayer, Hilgenberg, Singletary, McMichaels, Dent, the ever-widening refrigerator Perry, more like a walk-in cooler at this point. And, of course, Butthead, Kevin Butler. Quarterback Jim Harbaugh threw the ball to wide receivers Wendell Davis, not bad. Glenn Kozlowski, bad. Tom Waddle, okay. And tight ends James RoboCop Thornton. Any of these names ringing any bells? And often forgotten, but never too far away from my heart, Cap Boso.
Tom Waddle will always ring a bell.
Yes.
He is a national treasure, sir.
And Cap Boso. Sounds like a bad Marvel superhero. Their fearless leader was still Mike Ditka with a mustache as furious as ever, as rumors of his departure swirled through the winds of Soldier Field that night. The New York Jets brought Bruce Coslett as the head coach. Ken O'Brien, quarterback, throwing to Rob Moore, and Al Toon as his top receivers. Now, if the kid's dad in the Christmas Story was the maestro of swearing, my dad was a gunnery sergeant. On a warm, clear day with the front windows open during a Bears game, you could hear him from blocks away screaming, "You son of a bitch! Get that piece of shit out of there!" And the ever-present, "You stupid motherfucker!" This game was no exception, and we were all too eager to pitch in. Minus the swearing, of course, we weren't crazy. 30 minutes into the game, the Bears gave the Monday night crowd a show that they would come to expect from unoriginal mediocrity. Your score at half, 3-3. At this point, my 10-year-old body should have called it quits long ago and went to bed, but I was enthralled by what was going on in that TV. My siblings got picked off one by one. My younger brother didn't stand a chance, going to bed way early. My sister, no doubt, going to bed, dreaming about those Z Cavaricis. My older brother, John, friend and enemy of the show, stayed firm with me for now. I no doubt stayed up for the fun of the fourth quarter. The Bears entered the final frame down 13-3, and a butthead field goal soon made the score 13-6. As momentum shifts, the noise only gets louder as Harbaugh begins shredding the Jets secondary, not something he did a lot of, and the Bears drive deep into the red zone as the clock ticks under 5 minutes. The camera pans to a nervous-looking Jets defensive coordinator. Guess who it was at that time? Yes, Pete Carroll. Just starting to get comfortable with a full-on pedo vibe on the sidelines. On 4th and 3, Bears quickly call timeout to discuss their plans to go for it, because when has a Bears 4th and goal ever gone wrong? ABC commentator Dan Deerdorf and First Hair Club for Men client is calling for Harbaugh to get some sort of run pass option going. Number 4 takes the snap and darts towards the end zone on a QB draw. The hole looks open at first, but it's closed quickly by Jets Brian Washington, and he stopped inches short. Carroll goes crazy on the sidelines, no doubt already planning to pay college players to get ahead. After a couple of bad Bears penalties, the score still being 13-6 and the Jets driving, Dan Deerdorf predicts, "Son, you better head down for the tunnel. For all intents and purposes, this game is over. I'll bet a few thousand televisions were turned off at this instant, and all kinds of Bears fans went to bed angry," certainly referring to my siblings. As they go to commercial, Al Michaels says, "Barring disaster, the Jets will have a very happy plane ride back home." Ha, hilarious, Al. After that, my brother John went to bed. Cut to the next morning at our kitchen table. My siblings slowly rambled into the kitchen, scratching their tired eyes, asking no doubt how bad the Bears lost the night before. It was my chance to take the stage. The attention we fought so hard for had been given up so freely that morning to me. Suddenly, Mr. Itachi was talking through me. Standing on the rope pads on our old wooden chairs, I wove a story at 10 that could not have been accurate, but was full of energy. You guys won't believe it. What happened? Steve McMichael got a fumble and the Bears drove down and got a touchdown to tie the game. My mother monitoring the whole time and throwing in her corrections. Harbaugh passed to Neil Anderson to get the touchdown. And they went into overtime, guys. I took the story back from my mother. And then in overtime, the Jets were driving and they missed the field goal at the 11-yard line. Then the coolest thing happened. Some guy got full of grass. My siblings are lost now in the score. He's screaming, "Full of grass, Mom." Back to my mom. It was so exciting, guys, she yelled. Way too early for that volume, but none of us cared that morning. On 1st and 10, from way back there in overtime, Harbaugh passed to Caposo, and he ran through like 5 guys for a TD. There was a big sod of grass in his face mask, and he had to rip it off while he was mobbed by the other players. I can still remember her pulling her hands to her face to illustrate the play. Terrible 1991 replay, and why it was canned for a few years, if you remember. Would call back Boso's TD, but I would always remember Cap, the 8th round pick of the Steelers, and the former Illini grad getting that TD. Bears won by a QB sneak by Harbaugh. I'd also remember my brothers and sisters' faces. They were captivated, fascinated, and most of all, quiet. I was instantly in love with the power of the best reality show in the world, sports. And the best team I knew about anywhere, the Chicago Bears. But later that year...
Speaking of misinformed.
Yeah. Later that year, Ditka would be fired. Most of the 85 Bears would sadly age out, and years of historically terrible QB and offensive play would ensue. We asked the question last week, and in our fashion, we never got to it. Does Chicago have one good sports organization, or team for that matter? I have your answer. We do not. There is a reckoning coming to teams that rest on their laurels in this town and others who show us fraudulent balance sheets displaying their team isn't making money while their team's evaluations rise by the hundreds of millions of dollars. Your losses are biblical. You ain't seen nothing yet. Listen up, teams that make a conscious decision not to innovate. Do you think there's any kids sitting around worrying by hot fires of their version of Mr. Itachi with their families? Hell fucking no. At a certain age, if you get 5% of your kids' attention, you're lucky. They have their own worlds and their own screens now. So if you're a kid that sees Aaron Judge hit a home run, or what we see in Tampa this weekend with a fraction of the budget our baseball teams have, or if they see Steph Curry hit a 32-foot three-pointer, do you think they're going to want to watch Patrick Williams clank a 23-footer? or wait out Jason Hayward's bloated contract? Hell fucking no. If Fields doesn't pan out, do you think they're going to want to watch this organization pick another QB when they can watch the guy they should have picked in Mahomes? Not going to happen. I sure as shit wouldn't want to do that in their position. Take this warning, Reinsdorf, Ricketts, McCaskies, and yes, even Wirtz's of the old sports world. Your time is almost up. These kids will jump off your bandwagon so fast, they'll twist a fucking ankle. Like the droves of people pouring out of big cities day after day, no doubt birthing thousands of doubting Thomases. That is Fitzgibberish, my friends, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it some more.
Hell yes. Hell yes. I think that's the best one yet.
Yeah, I thought it might be. I didn't want to say it and jinx it, but yeah, I mean that's how I fell in love with sports, man. I always remember that story. This is one I've been wanting to write for months. And thank to Bleacher Report for filling in the blanks.
Jeremiah says that never happened in the Fitz household. Quiet and Fitzgibbons are actually acknowledged by Webster as acronyms.
He's probably definitely right.
Yeah.
But it almost happened like that, so a little bit of my memory might be off.
If your brother messages me one more time through Messenger, on the show Messenger, at that, about Joe Montana being the GOAT,
Yes.
I might throw something at him. Look, as far as Chicago sports teams go,
like that, right? We all have a game like that. That made us into sports fans, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, look, for me, it was for the Cubs. It was the 1989 division clincher. That sealed it for me. I think I was going to inevitably become a Cubs fan, diehard Cubs fan anyway, just because my grandfather was a diehard Cubs fan, and him and I were so incredibly close. And he passed away in 1995. I was a freshman in high school, but long before that, he instilled in me what the Cubs meant and what the Cubs meant to the city. And for me, that 1989, when they clinched it in Montreal, that's my first sports memory. Is waking up late, and I knew the game was on, and I waited, and I'm sitting there, and I'm laying in bed, and I'm waiting for my mom to go to bed so I could turn on the TV, but turn the volume all the way down. And then finally she went to bed, and I turned the TV on, and it was the ninth inning with 2 outs.
Oh, man.
So I got to see the final out. I got in trouble because as soon as they made the final out, I'm 8 years old, and I'm jumping up and down in my bedroom after my mom just went to sleep. And I got caught. But that's my first sports memory. And that is why I'm so passionate about Chicago sports. Mm-hmm. But you're right.
7 years it takes, man.
We don't have a great organization in this town. Now, we've had glimpses. The Chicago Bulls of the 90s, the Chicago Blackhawks between 2010 and 2015, winning 3 cups. But those organizations immediately went through rebuilds after their runs.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't just retool. They're not the Boston Red Sox. They're not the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're not the
Tampa Bay fucking Devil Rays.
The Green Bay Packers. That's what I'm saying. We don't have that organization. Like the St. Louis Cardinals, right? No matter who they lose, as much as I hate them, they're always fucking good, right? And they play in what is considered a small market baseball city.
Yeah, I mean, and they're not going to stay in the cellar in this division. They're not.
I think they will.
Contreras is doing his Wilson Contreras thing where he doesn't do good in April. He'll start hitting. I mean, they're going to start. They're going to start winning some games.
Yeah, and I think the Cubs are going to start losing some games, and we'll talk about that here in a second too, because I've got some things to talk about with David Ross. But
let's stay here, though. Yeah.
This city deserves more than what our ownerships give us. This city deserves to have consistent winners, and there's no reason ever for one of our teams to not be good for 5, 10, 15 years, like the Chicago Bears have been.
Yeah.
The Chicago Bears, look, you can talk all you want about us going to the Super Bowl in 2006. Look, that was a great defense. That was yeah, but they have been the laughing stock of the NFL for a long time. We have a guy, Jeremiah pointed this out earlier, and we've pointed it out on the show too, but DJ Moore would be the all-time leader in yards for the Bears. He's played for 5 seasons.
Five damn
seasons.
Glenn Kozlowski. And I like Tom Waddle. I loved watching him play, but he was not a good receiver. He was okay.
Yeah.
He was fair. He could catch the ball. Like,
yeah, and that is to me like the Bears, the Cubs, the White Sox, the Bulls, the Blackhawks all make enough money for us to be consistently good. Now, if you want to say, hey, look, we're going to have a down year this year because, we just lost a bunch of players, like say the Blackhawks, right?
aging out. Yeah.
We want to get Connor Bedard. We need to restart. We know Taves and Kane are getting older. We want to make sure that we're good for the next 10 years. Okay, great. We traded Kane, but maybe we can get him back in the offseason. We're not re-signing Taves. We don't hang on to our stars. Stars don't stay in Chicago. That's another problem that we have in this city is that our stars don't stay here. And when we try to get a star and bring a star in, they don't last. Remember when a Cubs signed Jason Hayward? And he was supposed to be look, they won the World Series. They won a World Series with Jason Hayward. His best season with the Cubs was 2018, and he hit 270 with 11 home runs.
They won in spite of him. I mean, let's be honest here. We got the 85 Bears. We got the 2005 White Sox. We got the 2016 Cubs. We can talk about the Bulls as well, who might have been able to win another championship or two with Jordan. But
the Bulls tried, though. Like that's the thing. Like when it comes to the Bulls, we did have Derrick Rose, right? Like he's
won a lottery.
He's 2 bad knees away from being a Hall of Famer, right? Like, I mean, that was just unfortunate for the Bulls. The Bulls were set up. That team with Joakim Noah, with Derrick Rose, that team, I remember watching that playoff series, I believe it was 2009 against the Celtics, that went 7 games, and 5 of the 7 went to double overtime. Like that team was so damn good, and they were set up, but unfortunately, Derrick Rose his knees didn't hold up. So the Bulls were a victim of circumstance at that point, but they haven't done anything to rebound from that.
Was going to put him over the edge. Do you think Garpax was going to put him over the edge? And what does Jerry Reinsdorf or Jerry Reinsdorf's son, Michael Reinsdorf, have to do? Why would they care to go over that? Why isn't mediocrity enough for them? Let's back up. Look at the 85 Bears. That team should have won 2 or 3 Super Bowls easily. Yeah. Maybe more, 2 or 3 more Super Bowls. 2005 White Sox had the lead in the first 59 games. They won 11 out of 12 games in the playoffs to win the World Series. They get Jim Thome, and they don't even make the fucking playoffs. And then you got the 2016 Cubs are the best hitting and scored the most runs and gave up the fewest, had the best defense in the league. And you could say what you want. They went to the playoffs for a few years, but they were never going to win anything after that.
And they went to the NLCS 3 years in a row. And I mean, they did
not go to the championship game. They went to a division series.
They went to the NLCS and lost to the Mets in 15. They went to the NLCS and won it in 2016, and then they lost to the Dodgers in the NLCS.
I'm talking after the World Series. They went
to NLCS in 17.
There was no fear. There was no fear that they were going to win a World Series in 2017.
No. And they came out of the gate bad too.
Yeah, and because they put all their money on position players, and then they didn't have anything coming through when it came to pitching. You can't fucking chew bubblegum and walk at the same fucking time. Like, what the hell? And the Sox do the same damn thing. They can't develop a position player. They can develop pitching.
And that's why I don't give the Bulls a pass. Like, I know Derrick Rose got hurt, but they didn't do anything after that. The rebound, it was like Derrick Rose didn't work out, and they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to rebound from that, and they still haven't rebounded from that. And even now, when you had players like Zach LaVine to build around, you didn't build around him properly.
Yeah. Does Pat Riley know how to build around him? Would Pat Riley be crying into it's the Heat still in the playoffs, right? I mean, is he going to be crying his towel? I mean, the people who innovate. Look at that Tampa team in this series. Look at that coach on the front step of the dugout. Look at how they innovate. Their team, their pitching staff has gone through an batting order for the third time less than any other team by hundreds of games than any other team in the last 4 or 5 years. They're innovating. Why are the Tampa Bay Devil Rays innovating and we're not innovating? Not one team is doing something out of the box. Maybe the Bears are. And that was going to be my final thing, but I didn't say it. The Bears have one more chance in my fucking book. And I'll get my screen and I'll go to another goddamn team. Like, they get one more chance. I'm waiting for the Sox to get sold. Like, I mean, I've had enough, man.
I see. I'll never be done with my teams. Like, I'll be angry and I'll be disappointed, but I'll always be a fan of my teams. But it's so maddening.
Is the next generation going to be that way, though, Combs?
No.
Is the next generation going to be that way? Why would they?
Right. That was the whole thing with me growing up. Like, in hockey, I was a Devils fan growing up. And you know why? It's because I didn't know Chicago had a team growing up. Because they didn't televise home games. Most of our road games were on the West Coast, so they're not playing until after 9 o'clock. Like, I didn't know that we had a team. And I became a New Jersey Devils fan from watching them in the playoffs and watching Martin Brodeur and watching them play the Rangers in those great series that they had. Like, I became a fan of a different team because I just didn't know. And that's what these Chicago teams are starting to do. You're starting to push away young fans because young fans would rather watch, like Jeremiah says, the Chicago market should never be outbid by a San Diego market. If I am a young kid watching an exciting baseball team right now, the San Diego Padres are kind of it. I mean, that lineup is so young and so good, and they're going to be good for so long that it shouldn't be that way. Now, I have a different reason why Xander Bogaerts went to San Diego. I have a different reason why the Cubs got outbid. I think that they spent less money because they're going in a different direction. Now, that remains to be seen, and we'll see if I'm correct or if I'm wrong. But these Chicago teams, these owners in Chicago, they use their teams like they are small market teams. They treat their fans like we are small market fans, and we're not. We pay top dollar to go to the games. We pack the stadiums. It was 45 degrees today at Wrigley. It was overcast. There was no sun. There were flurries of snow. It was cold as shit out there today, but it was packed. It was a packed house for a Sunday in April against the Dodgers. Like,
and we can even joke about the Sox attendance, whatever. It's funny. They've had over 2 million fans in there. That's middle of the road for baseball. Yeah. And they got a sweetheart deal on that stadium. They're making money, and they're showing us balance sheets that are fucking lies too. That's another thing that pisses me off. You lost money this season. Are you fucking kidding me? You got 81 fucking regular season games. Like,
Doubting Thomas wants to know how many more chances you're going to give the White Sox.
And he changed his goddamn pitcher. He changed his pitcher to the Cubs. He could change to another team, Doubting Thomas.
He changed it to. Is he not a Cubs fan?
How about the Temple Ray? No, he's Doubting Thomas is kind of like he's ahead of his time. He is like these fans. Why not watch? Why not? After all these years of him arguing with me, why not watch these other teams where excellence is actually celebrated, where they are on the cutting edge of some of these things?
I wouldn't say Tampa Bay celebrates their excellence, right? They get good young talent, and then they sell it off after 4 years once they hit their free agency.
Has it worked? Yeah, I mean,
they're consistently relevant. Yeah.
They churn out guys. They even have scout. There's even other organizations stealing scouts from them as well.
They draw 7.5 fans a game too, which really is maddening.
they actually they're you know, it was half filled to filled all weekend this weekend.
It was all Sox fans. It was all Chicago guys trying to get out into the warm weather.
Crying their beer.
Yeah, it is so embarrassing as a Chicago sports fans to watch what ownership does. We don't have a good organization in this city. We just don't.
No.
But you look at the St. Louis Cardinals in baseball, and it, like, again, as much as it makes me want to vomit saying it, they are the model organization in Major League Baseball. They are the organization that our front offices should be looking at and being like, you know what? We need to be more like them. They lose players, they call players up. Now, look, I don't know what the White Sox organization looks like from the farm system, but I do know a lot about the Cubs organization. I know the Cubs organization is rich in outfield talent. I know that the Cubs organization is rich in infield talent. They are poor in pitching talent. But why can't we translate that into being good when it comes to the major league teams? Instead of spending money on guys like, and he's panning out right now, but instead of spending the money on Cody Bellinger on a 1-year prove-it deal, why aren't we watching PCA or Brennan Davis in center field right now?
Exactly.
Why are we dealing with Trey Mancini batting like 220, striking out at an alarming rate, instead of watching Matt Mervis play?
And why do we have in right field? Why do we have to watch Oscar Colas, who looks like he'll be a good prospect? Why don't we have, you know, maybe a JD Martinez out there? I know he's not really playing the, you know, outfield.
Well, everybody in the White Sox lineup is hurt.
Oh yeah, that too. But yeah, you have nobody backing him up because you didn't bring in any talent into here. You only have that front end, you know, of reinforcements. That's all you got. Because you didn't want to bring anybody else in. Now they're what, 7th, 8th in payroll, but what do you put money to? Where is that money going?
In the White Sox right now are 7-15. The Cubs are 12-9. I'll be honest with you. At the beginning of the season, I thought the White Sox record would be more like what the Cubs record is, and I thought the Cubs record would be more like what the White Sox record is.
Yeah.
What do the White Sox need to do to turn this around? Like, can they turn this around, or is this the time for White Sox fans to be like, you know what? A spade's a spade. This team is what it is. We're not going to get any better. We need to figure this out and figure out who we're trading at the trade deadline to get better next year.
Yeah, I try to get to 60 games before something like that, but it obviously it doesn't look good at all right now. I mean, there is some bright spots. There definitely is. You know, I thought we argued about this through text message, but I thought Kopech actually looked pretty good against Tampa. I think Giolito is starting to pitch better.
He gave up 5 runs for 4 2/3.
It was 5 innings, but okay. Look at the box score again, because that's all you were looking at in the game. He actually pitched very well. He gave up a couple of he had a couple bad pitches in the first inning. He gave up 1 run in the next 4. So I mean, he actually is for him, I just want to see the ball coming out of his hands well. The result, yeah, I think the results will start to get there with him. So I'm not really worried about their starting pitching. What's really killing them is their bullpen, man. I mean, 3 blown saves by Ronaldo Lopez. I don't think Liam Hendricks does that, who just was, you know, just billed as cancer free through the week here, which is, you know, hopefully
it's gonna be great. Yeah.
If he comes back, that'll be hopefully that's a lift for the team. But you're right, man. I mean, you could say anything you want about the Sox right now, and I'll at least halfway agree with you.
Jeremiah says it's a mediocre, poorly assembled team.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it's poorly assembled when you got. I don't know if you saw the Gavin Sheets play, but
I did not.
So Gavin Sheets this is about 2 weeks old now. He's in right field. He fell down. The ball was hit right to him. He fell down. I've never seen it before in my life. You got to. Maybe we'll put it up. I'll post it on Facebook and Twitter. So
yeah,
you gotta start looking it up, man. Maybe we'll play it here in a minute as we talk. But yeah, he fell down. It was the funniest thing. I laughed out loud. He's playing right field. Like, why is he playing right field? He's left-handed. You got Oscar Colas, who plays right field. He's left-handed. Like, why do you have Gavin Sheets out there? I mean, stick with the rookie for a little while. We're what? How many games in? We're 22 games in, or 24 games in. It's ridiculous. I mean, I don't think Pedro Grifol's having a good, first 24, 25 games. I'm not gonna, judge a manager in his first 24 games in a 162 game season. But he comes out after that game on Friday, which I swear to God, I would have bet it was 10-1. It's probably 10-1 the Sox were going to win that game. They're up 7-5. Devil Rays come out, or the Rays come out, whatever. They come out. Ronaldo Lopez is pitching. I would have bet against the Sox. I would have bet that 10-1. I would have won a bunch of money. I wish I had a fucking sports betting app. If you could even bet that, if they even had the line up there. But I knew he wasn't going to make it because he doesn't. He might have the makeup. He definitely has the pitches to be a closer in this league, but he's not ready. And it was obvious he wasn't ready. Pedro Grifol comes after the game. He's like, "Oh, I'm giving him the ball again tomorrow." He's got a 10 ERA. I mean, you're 25 games into the season. You can pull a closer then. I mean, he's already blown 3 saves and he blew another game.
Yep.
Where it wasn't a save situation. So actually 4 games. I mean, you have Liam Hendricks in there that maybe it flips. And one of these games they win if they have Tim Anderson too. And I'm not giving excuses here. He's been hurt a lot too. I'm just saying that's what's happening to the team. That's why they're 7-15.
And I know the Cubs are 12-9, but I'm kind of there with Michael Fulmer too.
Ooh,
if I never see Michael Fulmer pitch another game in a Cubs uniform again, it'd be too many.
He's got a lot of straight pitches, man. I don't remember.
He is terrible, man. Not only did he blow the 2 games against the Dodgers, that one we would have had a sweep in LA. He blows that game in the 9th inning. Blows another game in the 9th inning at the start of this series, which the Cubs would have earned a split instead of losing 3 games out of 4 to the Dodgers. But then he comes in today with a 2-run lead, or with down 2 runs, trying to hold them to a 2-run deficit. And you give up 2 more runs. And you look piss poor. It puts the game out of reach. The Cubs load the bases in the bottom of the 9th, and down. I don't know for the life of me. It's a different game. Here's my point. It's a different game if they're only down by 2 than if they're down by 4 with the bases loaded, right? With 1 out. For the life of me, and this is where I'm going to get into David Ross now. Bases loaded. You had the dagger to put you down by 4. Ian Happ is on the bench. You have him taking his rest day. Nick Madrigal is coming to the plate. Why is Ian Happ not put into the game to pinch hit in that position? It boggles my mind. There is no answer for it. Ian Happ has been one of your top 3 hitters since the season began. He's going to be hitting from the left side of the plate, which he is a much better hitter from the left side of the plate with power. And you put Nick Madrigal, and you let Nick Madrigal hit, who hits into a double play to end the game.
Is Nick Madrigal batting for the St. Louis Cardinals in that situation, for the Yankees in that situation?
No.
For the Boston Red Sox, for Tampa Bay Devil Rays? Hell no, he isn't.
He's not even on the roster.
Yeah, probably not. Unfortunately, I thought the kid would be a little bit better, but he's not even a good defender. That's his problem too. Like, at least if you got a glove out there, he's not even a great glove man. Like, yeah, why is he in there? I was shaking my head too. And like I said, there's intellectual property, especially in baseball. And the Cubs and Sox are losing in that intellectual property. The Cubs were even losing when Theo Epstein was there, even though Theo Epstein did a lot of good things. He did predict that position players would be big in the middle of that decade, and they were. But then, put basically nothing into starting pitching or even bullpen.
Yeah.
No help.
The other thing I didn't get either is that we don't run enough in today's game. Like, it's designed right now for you to be able to run more, and we've got Trey Mancini at the plate in the 7th inning with a runner on first base and 2 outs. Why are we not sending Seiya Suzuki in that situation to try to steal second to get a runner in scoring position down by 2 runs? Like, I don't know that David Ross can actually lead a winning team. And that pains me because I really do like David Ross. I loved him as a player. I like him as a manager. I think he's a great baseball guy. I just don't know if he's a guy that can lead a winning organization. I feel like he is a guy who needs to be somebody who is running things intermittently for you from the bench, from being a bench coach, from being a first base coach, something along the lines of anything except for the manager right now. I think he needs to sit behind somebody and learn how to actually manage a game, because I think right now our two weakest flaws right now are the back end of the bullpen and David Ross's decision making.
Yeah, I mean, you lead from the fringes, and especially in baseball. And I know I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but you have to start innovating, or you are not going to win at those fringes. You're not going to win that extra game, those extra couple of games. Those teams that I just named do. Even the Yankees do have a philosophy. I know they throw a lot of money around. So do the Dodgers. The Dodgers do have a philosophy. Do you think the Dodgers farm system is at risk of being terrible? No, they have a great farm system. They are going to be trading at the deadline because they're going to have to, because that team is not the team they've been the last 5-6 years for sure. But still an okay team, and they can make some trades at the deadline because they got a bevy of a farm system. The Sox don't have that good of a farm system. The Cubs do. They're in okay position there. I don't know where they were ranked in the offseason, but I do know they got some guys. I mean, the Sox do too, but
yeah. Well, that's another thing too from an organizational standpoint. Why am I watching Luis Torrens DH for the Cubs today instead of Brennan Davis or Pete Crow Armstrong?
Yeah.
Why is this like? And you can tell me all you want, is because we want Pete Crow Armstrong, we want Brennan Davis, we want those guys to get consistent at bats, and they're just not going to get them right now at the major league level. Okay, fine, but then I don't want Luis Torrens in the lineup. I don't want Nick Madrigal in the lineup. We can put together a lineup without either one of those two buffoons being in the damn lineup. And we put them in the lineup, and then when there is a spot where we could sub for them, where we could bring Ian Happ in with the bases loaded, we're letting Nick Madrigal trot out there.
Yeah,
that's what we're doing. That's the decision that David Ross is making for this baseball team that is right now performing out of its mind, winning series against teams like the Seattle Mariners, Texas Rangers, the Los Angeles Dodgers. These are the decisions we're going to continue to make. We're just going to find ourselves in the basement of this division faster than you can say hello.
You got a guy who's free swinging, who hits the ball on the ground a lot, who doesn't walk a lot, batting with the bases loaded, in Nick Madrigal.
Yeah.
Doubting Thomas checking. Is there a hitting coach alive or dead who could teach White Sox hitters to take pitches? I don't know. And we did get in an argument the other week about Luis Robert, who is now went from swinging at almost everything to swinging at everything, and his batting average took a damn nosedive. They actually had 6 walks in an inning on Friday, which is unbelievable. They're the last team I thought would have that. I've not seen a team that not only is this free swinging, but it's as if it's a goddamn disease for them, where other guys who weren't free swinging are now free swinging. I mean, like Grandal, though Grandal's having a decent season quietly. He's more free swinging than I've ever seen him before. It's ridiculous.
Jeremiah Murray says Cubs have the 14th ranked farm system. Sox have the 26th.
Still middle of the road. They have had a couple of years. They did trade away a lot of their players, and they're a middle of the road farm system. I guarantee the Dodgers are ahead of them. I guarantee the Tampa Bay Devil Rays are ahead of them. It's just ridiculous. It's one thing after another. Like, how long are these teams going to be allowed to do this? I just don't think it's going to be that way anymore. I just don't think that you're going to have eyes on TVs anymore from this next generation.
I don't think so either. I do think we are the only team right now I can say that we're in a good position with is going to be the Chicago Bears.
Yep.
The Cubs are probably next to the Bears, probably the closest to crawling out of it. I think the Sox are about to start redoing it again, unfortunately, because I don't know how else you fix that team. I really don't.
Yeah. No, I don't either.
I mean, the 26th ranked farm team. Who you calling up?
Yeah, I know. Maybe Colson Montgomery. I mean, he's a top prospect, but after that, you kind of have, you do have some pitching prospects, but you don't have a lot of position players to call up. You really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, they got some guys that are a little ways off that are going to be good. They have Jose Ramirez, who could be a great shortstop, but he had some home runs in spring training this year. It could be really good prospect. And Colson Montgomery is a left-handed third baseman, shortstop, second baseman himself, who's going to be a star. That kid's going to be a star, but they'll probably ruin him and freaking bring TLR back or something like that. But I mean, I think the another thing with the Sox is there is that thing. Jerry Reinsdorf's not giving the team to his family, and someone buys this team. Are the Sox in this town still?
I mean,
moving to the South Loop. I mean, that's always the thing in the back of my mind as a Sox fan. How long does this organization last with the way the South Side is right now, with the crime that we have on the South Side, with people moving out, like I said, in droves?
I don't know how this team does it. I don't know. I think that the Cubs, I really do. And earlier, somebody said, how does San Diego outbid a Chicago team? I think the Cubs didn't spend the money, and I don't want to give them too much credit because I don't like the direction in which they've gone. And I don't like how they've handled the situation with the Cubs ever since 2016. I'm not a fan of what they've done. I do think that they're going to go hard after Shohei Ohtani this offseason. I think that's why they didn't spend the money that Xander Bogaerts wanted or that Trey Turner wanted, is because they're saving it for this offseason. It remains to be seen. I could be completely wrong, but I do think that. So the Bears I'm all in on. I think Ryan Poles is the guy. I don't think there's any way he can screw this up. We'll find out on Thursday night if I'm right or if I'm wrong.
Saying that.
I do. I'll knock on wood. I think he's the guy. I think we're in good hands. We'll find out. Come down, join us on 115 Bourbon Street on Thursday night. Join us there live. We will be live on stage in the main bar, doing our thing, watching the Bears build for the future. Or Fitz will rip off his jersey and throw it into the crowd. It will be a great night. See you guys there. 115 Bourbon Street, Thursday night. Doors open at 5:30. You can actually reserve tables now. So if anybody's interested in reserving tables, getting your seats up close to the stage so that I can throw Fits at you, feel free. We will see you guys next Sunday.